On page 6 of your interactive notebook, you should have notes that look similar to this, except they're blank. If you were in school yesterday, we went ahead and started the first part of this, and this is what you should have filled into them. You can go ahead and pause this so that you can get the part that's in yellow copied down into your interactive notebook. But to explain, compliments, and we spell it with an E, not an I. It's not the kind of compliment where you're telling your mom she looks so pretty, hoping she'll give you $15 to go to the movies. This kind of compliment is a word, or it could be a group of words, that completes the meaning of a verb. And we're going to use them to identify 4 specific sentence patterns. It stands for subject plus action verb plus direct object, subject plus action verb plus indirect object plus direct object. And then we have 2 sentence patterns that go with linking verbs. Subject plus linking verb plus predicate adjective, and subject plus linking verb plus predicate noun. You can see here that we have 2 patterns that go with action verbs. What comes after the action verb is considered the complement. So we have direct objects, which we're going to abbreviate with DO, and then we have indirect objects that we abbreviate with indirect, or with an IO. I want you to make sure that you take notice here that the IO has to come before the DO. When we have a sentence pattern, it's never ever going to be in the reverse. You're never going to find the indirect object after the direct object. We also have 2 sentence patterns that go with linking verbs, and then we have 2 complements then that go with them. So following the linking verb, we have a predicate adjective, and we could have a predicate noun. So you need to, in the next couple weeks, become very familiar with these 4 sentence patterns and the complements that we use within the sentence patterns. All right, so yesterday we went through and we did this first page. I'm just going to do the first one as a recap. But we start by finding our prepositional phrase. Anytime we want to break down a sentence and look at the parts, we start by getting rid of the extra things that we don't need. The appositives, the prepositional phrases, the infinitives. What we really need in a sentence is a subject and a verb. With everything else we can do without, but they just add a lot more description to the sentence. So we start by looking for words that were on the list that we had to memorize for our prepositions quiz. And I can see one over here, through. So I want to think of where is the noun that ends that phrase. Through what? Through the streets. And then I see another preposition that was on our list, of New York. Now if I get rid of those prepositional phrases, all that I have left is King Kong stomps. And I got rid of those phrases so it would be a lot easier to find the subject and the verb. King Kong is the subject. He's telling what this sentence is about. And the verb is what King Kong is doing. He stomps. And I know that's an action verb because it's a physical action that I can see. And so we went through and we did these examples together. More often though, we're going to find action verbs that go with complements. And so the first complement we're going to look for is a direct object. Movie producers often borrow real homes to film. So we look first for any prepositions or prepositional phrases. And I do see the word to here. And when I see the word to, little bells should be going off in my head because I have to stop and think a little bit. To can also be used as an infinitive. So I want to see if the word after to is a verb or a noun. And film, in this case, the way it's being used, is a verb. So this isn't a prepositional phrase, but it is something that I can get rid of. To film is an infinitive. Now I can ignore it. The sentence now reads, movie producers often borrow real homes. I want to look for the one word that tells me who or what the sentence is about, and that would be the producers. Now I want to find the verb. What do the producers do? I don't say the producers often, but the producers borrow. Once I have an action verb, if I see anything left in the sentence, I want to go one more step. And I want to look to see if there's a noun coming after that action verb. And I can find it by asking the question whom or what. Producers borrow whom or what do they borrow? They borrow homes. So that becomes a direct object. So my sentence pattern here is subject plus action verb plus direct object. The next house says, the right house can charm viewers. I'm going to look first to see if I see any prepositions, and I do not. So I'm going to start by looking. Next, I'm going to look for my subject. What is the sentence about? That sentence is about a house. What does the house do? The house charms. And it doesn't say the house charms. I actually have a helping verb here, which we'll talk about in a couple weeks, but you should have learned those before. So my verb phrase is actually, the house can charm. I see that I've got a word left after my action verb. I want to see if it's a noun and if it answers the question whom or what. House can charm. Whom or what can it charm? It can charm viewers. So I've got a direct object. Subject plus action verb plus direct object. She heated some lima beans and ham and made the cocoa with condensed milk. This one looks like a pretty complicated sentence, but if we start by just getting rid of the extras that we don't need, I see a preposition here, with. So I'm going to look for the end of the phrase, with condensed milk. Okay, now I want to look at who is the sentence about. It's about she. What did she do? She heated. That's an action. And now, since I see some words after my action verb, I want to look for a noun. She heated. Whom or what did she heat? She heated some beans. And I see a conjunction here, and. That means she might have heated something else. She heated beans and ham. So here I have two direct objects that go with ham or with heated. Now over here I see another word, made the cocoa. Made, I know, is a verb. It's an action verb. I can see myself making something or somebody else. That's an action. So I now ask myself, she made what? She made cocoa. So cocoa is a direct object. And I still see a little bit more to this. And set the table. She heated some lima beans and ham. She made the hot cocoa. And she set the table. She is the subject for all of these actions. What's the last thing she did? She set. That's an action verb. I look up here to my question. She set what? She set the table. So table is the direct object. So we see that we can start with a very simple sentence, or it can become very complicated. But if we take our time and we break the sentence down and ask ourselves these questions, then we should be able to find it very easily with some practice. All right, so let's take a look at the next complement then. The next complement goes with action verbs as well. If you have an action verb and you have a direct object, and there are some words that are left in between, because we said that the sentence pattern with an indirect object shows the indirect object between the action verb and the DO. So if we can find anything like that, then we want to go one more step now and ask the question, to whom or for whom? We lent the producer our house until summer. We always start by looking for any extra phrases we can get rid of, and I see a preposition until. Until what? Until summer. So now that I get rid of that, I'm left with we lent the producer our house. The subject in the sentence is we. What did we do? What's the action? We lent. Now if we have an action verb, we always have to find the DO first. And if I think back to the question I have to ask, we lent what? We lent whom or what? Now, I've got a couple of things. I could say we lent the producer. But if I think about the meaning of that sentence, that doesn't really make much sense. You can't lend a person like that. We can lend our house. So house must be the direct object. Now here I see a lot of words here left between my action verb and my direct object. So I'm going to go another step. We lent our house to whom or for whom did we lend our house? To the producer. I've got an indirect object that falls between my action verb and direct object and answers the question to whom or for whom. She offered us free movie passes for Friday. Start by finding prepositions. For is a preposition for what? For Friday. Now I'm left with she offered us free movie passes. Who is the sentence about? It is about she. What did she do? She offered. I'd ask myself, she offered whom or what? And again, I could answer the question with she offered us, but that doesn't really make sense. You can't offer a person. You can offer something. You offer passes. She offered what? She offered passes. She offered the passes to whom or for what? She offered the passes to us. So us is the indirect object. Now I do see I've got some extra words in here, and if we really thought about what those words were doing, I'm sure you can figure out that they're describing what kind of passes? Movie passes. So these are just modifiers, they're adjectives. What kind of passes? Free passes. And now I've used all the words in my sentence. Now the next sentence seems very, very similar. She offered the passes to us. It's really the same meaning as the sentence above it, but the structure of it is going to be a little different. But we're going to follow the same pattern. Look for a preposition. I see the word to. Bells are going off as I look at to. Alarms making me stop and think. Is to followed by a verb, or is to followed by a noun or a pronoun? And it's followed by us, which is not a verb, it's a pronoun. So I'm going to highlight that. There's a phrase, to us. She offered the passes. Go back and find my subject. It's she. What did she do? She offered. If I have an action verb, I look next to find the direct object. She offered whom or what did she offer? She offered passes. And I see words left in between, so I'm going to ask myself that next step. She offered passes to whom or for whom? Now over here, I see she offered the passes to us. It answers the question. She offered the passes to whom? She offered the passes to us. The problem is that we can't have it be a prepositional phrase and an indirect object. It's already got a job. That job is to be a prepositional phrase. So it can't be an indirect object. The other reason it can't be an indirect object is because there is no sentence pattern. S plus AV plus DO plus IO. The IO has to come first. And it doesn't here. We can't say she offered the passes to the. This is just a modifier. So there is no indirect object in this case. The sentences are very similar, but because of the way the sentence is written, the structure of it, it follows two different sentence patterns. I'm going to stop this one now, and you're going to go to the next screencast to learn about linking verbs.